Welcome. So I want to, first of all, welcome everybody. And Tracee, thank you for being here and taking a breath. And I am so happy to be in conversation with Tracee Stanley and share her brilliant work, her new book that I'm sure many of you already read her previous book, which was the best-selling Radiant Rest, the Yoga Nidra for deep relaxation and awakened clarity. And now we have this gift of the luminous self. And this is sacred practices, sacred yogic practices and rituals to remember who you are. Tracee is also the founder of her home that she has created for many to gather called the Empowered Life Circle. And this is a sacred community. It is a portal of practices and rituals, tantric teachings, inspired by more than 20 years of various practices in yoga and tantric practices, which I can't wait to get into with Tracee in a moment. She is what's called a post-lineage teacher, taking so much wisdom that she has gathered through receiving it and through her own practices and her own devotion to share that wisdom through the practices, as you, I'm sure, experienced already with Yoga Nidra, with rest, meditation, with self-inquiry, which I can't wait to get more into because that is not usually part of everybody's sort of path when they walk through a yoga studio. Through my heart nature as teacher, ancestral reverence, and weaving ritual and devotion into daily life, into daily practice as a way of life, not as something we pause to do, but something we continually do through our day. And this is all actually at the heart of Tracee's new book, which I pulled out a tremendous amount of questions that I would like to sort of go after, but also Tracee, I know that I just want to let you know that while I sort of have a focus and I have lots of notes around that I will take a picture and send to you, but I also want to invite you to veer off course at any time and point us in another direction if you are being inspired to take us somewhere else. I share the hat, and we'll pass it over to you at any point. And hopefully we'll leave some space at the end. I know there's a lot of friends and guests here that would like to possibly ask a question or two, and we'll maybe finish up with a few breaths of an offering from you as well.
Sounds perfect to me.
I would love to start just actually by asking now in this moment, how are you? And is there anything you'd like me or us to know before I sort of drive down a couple of drive through the road I'm looking at?
I would say that I am leaning on my practices. I'm leaning on my relationship with nature, and they are supporting me.
Yeah, amen. I share that with you, actually. I will start by saying, first of all, besides the nature piece, which I look forward to getting in with you, I love when you post your photos on Instagram. Where you live is so inspiring, and how the lens in which you share the images of nature through and the pauses and the contemplation, for me, those are big doorways into practice. So I appreciate your offerings there in social media.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I want to say, I just want to show you this book again, because what I love about it is it's experiential. It's like a somatic experience. It's a somatic book to me, which means you feel your writing in your body. And even in when you're trying to pass along teachings through a scholarly lens. And so I'm going to share two things. First of all, each chapter sort of begins with what we call it as a Dharma talk, a sharing, a framing of a teaching or a lesson through your personal experience mostly. And you can really feel your experience in them. And then you move into offerings, into practices, so that a reader, is that what we call a reader, a listener, a friend, a student of the book, a a community member, can use your story as a doorway into their own experiences and then the practices to embody them for themselves. And one thing that's different that I found is this, you sort of phrase it as see, sense, trust. To make the practices more digestible and integratable to different people's experiences. And I just wanted you to talk about sort of how you came to integrating it that way, using that language, especially the part on trust and faith, because it's easy to describe five senses, and trust and faith are a little different. So could you just share a little bit about how you came to work that way?
Yeah, I think the beginning came from way back when I started to receive different Kriya practices in Tantra. As you know, this idea of Kriya combines usually a mantra, a pranayam, and a visualization. And there would be so many times where I would hear people in the Sangha say, well, I didn't see anything. And it almost felt as though something was wrong with the practice, because there would always be one person who would say, oh, I saw these fireworks and the unicorn and the rainbow, and oh my God, it was so mystical. And I feel like it leaves us feeling sometimes like we're in lack, like there's scarcity in our practice. And the last place that we need to feel that there's scarcity is in our spiritual practice. So I wanted to widen the lens of experience a little bit, because I know that people, including myself, may see, they may feel, they may hear. And then I also know that in the teachings that I've received, that Shraddha is a part of practice, which is this idea of faith and trust. And so at sometimes we just have to have the trust that the practice is working, the faith that the practice is working. And I think that when we hold everything with trust and faith, it leads us to be able to have a devotion towards something that is so subtle and so unseen that it allows us first to kind of release this extractive quality that I think that we have in industrialized society, that we do something because we want something out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the trust and faith allows you to be in that space of devotion of, I am doing this practice, just knowing that one day, maybe something will come that will let me know it's been working all along. I just have to have the faith and trust.
I love that. I love that you do mention, if you're sitting in a classroom and one person is like, tell me why I saw that purple light and it was incredible. And the next, I didn't have that experience. And it does create this feeling of, why isn't it working for me? And just giving not only the faith and trust that everything is working for us, but another way to experience it that is not only accessible, it's also true. It's also truth.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also helps us not to continue to anchor ourselves in comparison and competition, which is the way, our American way. It's like we've been trained to compare. And if we can just have one space where we don't have to do that, or we don't feel like we have to do that, then that kind of permeates the rest of our life.
Yeah, actually, you wrote that sort of like picked up later in your book. And I wrote down something you wrote. Where is it that you write that? I guess it was, okay. So I'm going to just read a little clip of something, a short sentence you wrote. This path of sacred remembrance is not about seeking your life's purpose, but awakening a deep inner knowing that the North Star you have been looking for has been inside you all along. The path of sacred remembrance is not about seeking your life's purpose. And that, it seems like, a lot of people might be like, wait, wasn't it actually for that? Or, it's really an essential teaching, because a lot of people start practicing and seeking because they want a better life, or to be better, or to change or fix, also, though, what's under that is a longing
Yes.
that gets misconstrued
Mm-hmm.
for fixing.
Yeah. And the fixing that you're talking about generally has this idea of reaching outside to find the thing that's going to fix me.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, I'm going to find the perfect Kriya. I'm going to find the mantra. I'm going to find the teacher. I'm going to find the, cream or the whatever, adaptogen that's going to make it happen. And it's not to say that those things are not helpful to guide us on our path, but they're helpful because they're guiding you back to yourself.
Yes. Yes. It's almost like the angst.
Mm-hmm.
The angst of wanting to fix, if we get under what it is we want to change and go under to the angst, is where the doorway is closer to the angst than it is to how we fix.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
the angst that you're describing is the discomfort that is the portal to awakening. And the
Yes.
problem is that most of the time when I feel angst or someone else feels angst, the general thing is, oh, I want to get away from the feeling of discomfort. So you're actually moving further away from the thing that is going to heal you. If we can actually notice the discomfort, sit with the discomfort, and it doesn't mean sitting with the discomfort is different than wallowing in the discomfort, right? So sitting with the discomfort and noticing, what is this bringing up in me?
Can I just pause on that for one moment? I want to just rewind to something you said that was worth pausing on. We try to get away from the discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us rightfully calm ourselves and self-regulate as a way of healing our discomfort. And what you're saying and what you say throughout the book, and you even use the Japanese analogy of using the cracks as a way of moving into the cracks and celebrating it and looking at their beauty as a way of creating our wholeness. But when we don't try to run away from that discomfort, but ground ourselves and look into it, it's and it makes me think of and I'm jumping around now of a sort of this difference between radiant rest and the luminous self, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So I love the Chinese proverb, tension is who you think you should be,
Mm-hmm.
and relaxation is who you are.
Yeah. Thich Nhat Hanh.
Mm. And well, he continued it, and it's
Mm-hmm.
originally like a Chinese proverb.
Mm-hmm.
I don't actually, and it is a guiding sutra of most of my work. But the world learned of you through Radiant Rest and through your Yoga Nidra teachings and offerings.
Mm-hmm.
It was a entry point for a lot of people to practice with you. And in my experience, when I experience neurological relaxation, really deep, true relaxation, I have an experience of an interconnectedness, of a wholeness. And so in your words, I wonder what you would describe the relationship between true relaxation, and the luminous self. What is the relationship between these two different ways of using language?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that question. What I would say really is that radiant rest is what we need before we can allow for the revealing of the luminous self to happen. Our luminous self is revealed to us in those moments of rest, in deep, real rest, that interconnectedness that you talk about. Maybe somebody who's listening has heard or has felt this feeling of being in a deep shavasana or a deep restorative posture and feeling as though, oh, I can't feel where my body ends and where the floor begins. I feel expansive. I feel like I'm everywhere. and maybe even nowhere at the same time. That happens because we allow this material body, this personality that we think we are, this name and form, to dissolve. And in that dissolution, the only thing that remains is what's eternal. And what is eternal is the luminous self. What's eternal is the light that was there before you had a name and will no longer have a body. What's there is also this part of us that was there when the universe was created. And that's what we're here to remember, from what I feel. That's what I feel I'm here to remember.
Yeah, I resonate with you deeply. Would the consciousness, the awareness be the difference? Meaning, I do a lot of awareness practices personally, and sometimes my awareness is aware of what it feels like to be deeply relaxed and connected. And sometimes I feel like the awareness itself. And there's sort of like two different.
Right. They're two different things. It's like we can say my awareness, but the awareness is everywhere and everything. And that is, to me, when I practice rest, I feel connected to the awareness.
Mm-hmm.
My individuality is the thing that dissolves. The personality is the thing that dissolves. The name and form dissolves.
Yeah, you use this language that I actually use a lot. So every time I hear you say it, I'm just like, we are not in nature, we are nature, which is very much sort of, the same understanding that we are not on the continuum, we are the continuum.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some teachers who offer that, and it sounds like a sutra. It sounds like a teaching. And there's other teachers who offer that, and it feels like the Shakti, or it feels like the embodied experience. And I really feel that in you. When you offer that teaching, it's a feeling, it's not a cerebral experience. Do you personally remember your first experience, that moment? Is there a moment that you can remember in your body where you like nature, that it just came to you?
Oh, yeah, there are many, many moments. I would say the first moment is the moment that led me to yoga. Before I knew there was such a thing as, these Sanskrit words, these kriyas, these mantras, it was literally a moment of sitting on my balcony when I was living in South Africa, watching the clouds dancing across Table Mountain at sunrise. And it was a moment of just peace and quiet and complete absorption, which I would say now, right, is the dharana. I didn't know that that's what I was doing at the time, but there was a dharana that happened. And in that dharana, I basically became one with that which I had my one pointed focus concentrated on. And I fell into what I didn't have words for at the time, was a state of meditation, which is different than I'm closing my eyes and I'm meditating. I'm doing, right? I literally became the being of that. And it took me a long time to figure out what it was that happened, because the people that I was around at the time didn't know. They thought I was like losing it. It's like, what are you talking about? Trying to describe this experience that only lasted for probably a couple of minutes. But in those few moments, it felt as though I had the answer to every question that I had been struggling with in that moment. And I was in my early 20s. So imagine all the questions. Those questions were answered. What I realized at that time was that the questions and those answers were somehow already in me. The answers were already there. There was nothing that I needed to look for outside. And so luckily, I met somebody who said, "Oh, I know exactly what happened to you. And I'm going to bring you to a bookstore. And here are the books that you should read." And as I started to read those books, my perception of reality began to shift because I had now something else to anchor my understanding around.
Mm.
And that was just the first time.
Yeah, that is beautiful. What was the book? Do you remember the book?
There were a number of books. There was The Prophet by Khalil Gibran.
Mhm.
There was Way of the Peaceful Warrior, Illusions, Tantric Meditation by
Mm.
Harish Johari. Um, there was Celestine Prophecies. Those are the main ones, but there were
Yeah,
like two
yeah.
or three others. Yeah.
I loved those years. I loved the Celestine Prophecy. I loved that book.
It was an
Um,
amazing book. Yeah.
yeah,
Very
yeah,
eye-opening.
yeah, it was. I had a similar experience in Montana.
Mm.
Do you know Eric Schiffman? You
I
know,
do. I studied with Eric.
me too.
Yeah.
He was one of
Six.
my root teachers for years. And I was at Feathered Pipe with him, and it was in like
Okay.
1998. And it was walking, just walking. I was just walk out. Well, to be, I was walking from the soak.
Mm-hmm.
I was
Mm-hmm.
walking from a hot tub just across back to my yurt. You know, you can't get a better place to, and it was literally the walking. And I can remember it, you know, what is that, 1998? And here I am, we are in 2023. I
Yeah.
can, when I want to go back into oneness, I literally go back into my body in that moment. And it stays with me.
Yeah. Those moments are not for, you don't forget them because
Yeah.
they are a remembrance.
Mm.
Same thing as mine was in the early 90s. And it's just as if I was back there and even telling you the story. I can remember it.
Yeah, it is a remembrance. That's a beautiful way to help us understand um, what it is when we use the word. So thank you for that. Something I pulled out from your book I want to ask you about is you wrote an embrace an attitude of partnering with these practices to experience the wisdom they offer, as opposed to trying to extract a result that can quickly be duplicated in a classroom setting. If you do, you will learn things that can never be expressed in words, but the experiences will live through you. I want to just break that down into two pieces. Embrace an attitude of partnering. What a what a simple, beautiful, direct way of inviting us to practice. We don't often think of our practices as partners. And it made me think when I read that, it really stopped me. And I was thinking about, you know, partner implies not only collaboration and presence, but it also implies the willingness to be intimate,
Mhm. That's
which
right.
made me think of the word intimate and partnering as into me see.
Yeah.
And I just want you to elaborate that because I think it's really brilliant. It's a paradigm shift
Mm-hmm.
to think of our practice as a partnering relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is, to me, when we start to make this shift, it's kind of a game changer around our practice. Because practice, a lot of times, the way we think about it is it's something that we do, and we do it for this amount of time, or in this particular place, or with this particular person, right? And what I have noticed in my own practice is that once I started to understand that I was in relationship, not only with the practices, but with the teachings, that it shifted everything because then life becomes the practice because you're in a relationship. Who wants to be in a relationship with a person who just wants to extract from you, right? Who
Right.
just wants something from you.
Ooh, you just gave me like the chills too of the aliveness of the practice.
Yeah, we want to be in relationship and we want to be intimate. We want to be seen. We want to be held, right? And we want to hold and be devoted. And so if we think about the practice as what you just said, something that is alive, because it's alive within us. Most of these teachings, whether you know it or not, they're coming from some sort of lineage. Some rishi was in the forest, or some rishini was dancing in the forest somewhere and had this awareness, had this moment of awakening, understood a state of consciousness and how that state of consciousness came to be, because they were walking from one place to another, just like you were, or they were sitting watching the clouds, and that became a teaching. It's still alive.
I don't know why. I feel like I could cry right now. Um, Paradigm shift, big way. I really hope I think it would be a really generous, grace-filled gift for that insight to land in our communities. Thank you for that. I know we're yeah, you really got me present. So I know we're close to end, and I want to ask you just one last question if we have time.
Yeah, we do.
But something else, I really loved the language that you wrote on ritual is the fascia. Ritual is the fascia that holds the center when it seems like everything else is falling apart. A daily ritual is a cumulative practice that buoys and nourishes us on every level and is a powerful way to continue to weave the thread of practice through our lives. Not only do I love this word, this language of ritual is the fascia, but if we bring it to the aliveness of fascia, if we bring it to the aliveness that we just landed with and open to, that again takes such a deeply nourishing role. You know, it's like it's like I could taste it and ingest it now. So if you wouldn't mind sharing what rituals are nourishing you in your aliveness at this moment in time, in this season, in this week, it would be beautiful to hear.
Yeah. So being with nature, that is number one. So just this morning, I was sitting on a ridge top looking out over the Himas Mountains in silence with a beautiful cup of tea and in meditation, and remembering that I am nature, that I'm not separate, because I really believe that that illusion of separateness, that we could say the story that we've been told that we are separate or that we are above nature in some way, is really one of the root causes of our suffering. It's the root cause of our suffering. It's the root cause of the suffering of this planet. And so for me, that is nourishing. Chanting and being with my mantras are nourishing. Moving my body, and that's different every day. This morning it was joints and glands exercises, is nourishing. Being with a beloved in silence. So I took my stepson along with me to this favorite space that I like to sit at, and he took his mind map and his sketchbook and he went out and found his own sit spot. And so sharing that is also nourishing for me. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, I'm just honoring our time together and feeling really nourished myself. I want to remind you guys this book, and maybe you can just share, lastly, how you wish we moved through it, because I know I've heard you. If you have a chance, everybody, all you have to do is go to Apple Podcasts and just put in Tracee Stanley, Tracee with two E's, her name, and she's having so many beautiful conversations right now. You can hear a lot about her process and what she wishes for you, but I just thought I'd share it with this, finish with this now. If there's any wish you have for how we might partner with this alive book.
Yeah. Thank you. My wish is that you find something in these pages that resonates with you, and that you live with it for a period of time. You devote yourself to it for a period of time, and that you hold the prayer in your heart, that you remember in this lifetime, the power and the truth and the beauty of who you really are.
And that's not just a gift to us as individuals, that's a gift to everybody we come into contact with.
That's right.
So thank you for that.
That's right.
I see Sissy St. John.
Sissy St. John.
Yeah.
Sissy used to teach at my yoga studio way back in the day.
She emailed me, and she was wondering if you would remember. And here
of course, how could I forget?
Yeah. So feel free, if you want to drop something in real quick as we're finishing. You could, if you have a question, you could throw that on there. We will follow up with an email, and anywhere we post this, with Tracee's website, and it is also her name that is on her book.com, Tracee with two E's, and which I love that spelling, by the way. It's really, it's also like aesthetically very pleasing. And Tracee, I am honored that you are offering your wisdom within my training, and people can join just for Tracee's workshop if you are not interested in an extended training, but you can come visit us and spend an evening just with Tracee. So that will be beautiful too. And Tracee has her own community. And if you want to finish and tell us about your book club that is going to start.
Oh, yeah. So the book club, the live book club is almost done, but we're going to be relaunching the book club again with the recordings pretty soon. So if you just go to probably my link tree in Instagram, you can just sign up for the interest list for all the things that you might be interested in knowing more about.
Okay, beautiful. And also, if you do get the book, there's a link for people who have the book to receive audio meditations with you as well.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. The book, I think it's in the how to use the book section in the very beginning. There's a link under audio recordings, and you can find that on page, the last page of the introduction.
All right. Well, clearly I highly recommend it. It might just be your new partner for the next year or so, or longer. Thank you so much for being here, Tracee.
Thank you so much.
And may you be well, and may you be at ease. And thank you for letting your gifts flow through you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you to Deanna as well for holding space.
Yeah. All right. Namaste, everybody. Be well.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here.